Good evening to everybody. Good evening. This is Saturday, the 26th of December, the day after Christmas. And this is Christopher Daigen coming to you live from my home in KwaZulu-Natal. And yes, this is live. For those of you who are following me and who are on my mailing lists, you will have received message to say that this evening section was going to be pre-recorded highlights from the year. Well, it's not. We actually are having a live stream. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second. So this is our Saturday evening in-concert session with myself, Christopher Daigen, on Saturday the 26th. We hope you've all had a beautiful, happy and festive Christmas day, and we hope you are enjoying the holiday and the peaceful, happy times. We hope it's all working out just as you expected and just as you'd wished. And I'm going to be playing a beautiful program for you this evening of classical music in our in-concert session. Our Saturday evening is a more classical section. And this evening I have chosen some very light, pleasant, beautiful, somewhat calming sometimes, but very rich, positive moods throughout the program. And I hope you're going to be able to join me for the next hour and enjoy this session of music. If you are able to support us, please follow the QR code or visit our website, musicrevival.co.za. The QR code, if you point your camera app on the cell phone at that on the bottom of the screen, it should automatically lead you to a Cricket website page where you're able to buy a ticket if you'd like to, or make a general financial contribution towards our project. We really are dependent on your generous contributions, voluntary, completely voluntary, but it's the only way I'm able to make a living at the moment, run the office, continue covering all the expenses of the Music Revival project, as well as the expenses of setting up and producing these live stream sessions, which we are now nearing number 80. So I was supposed to be out and about today. I had been invited to a lunch which I attend every year, and as it happens I just suddenly realized that, considering the situation in this part of the country, it was best for me to perhaps just stay at home. And so here I am. I was going to take the day off, but now that I am at home, I thought, well, what's the point of having a day off when we can have a beautiful evening of music? And I'm sure many of you are having a holiday today and enjoying some time at home. So there's plenty of opportunity to sit back and relax and enjoy the session of music. It's a beautiful, magnificent sunny day in this part of the world in KZN. It's been really beautifully warm, crystal clear blue skies for most of the day. And if you're not in this part of the world, I believe it's very chilly elsewhere. So if you are in England, or if you are in Turkey or Germany or France, I know we have many followers there, as well as some followers in Mexico. I'm not quite sure what the climate or what the temperature in Mexico is at the moment. If you're watching from the embassy, please let us know. Anyway, I'm going to march on with some beautiful music, and I'm going to start off with a selection. Most of the music is actually a retrospective of some of the highlights of this year. And the first thing I'm going to play is a Chopin Waltz Opus 18. Now, and the reason I'm playing this and including this is that I'm always encouraging people to visit my YouTube channel. If you subscribe to my YouTube channel, it gives you a direct link to each live stream as it happens, and also to be able to access it immediately afterwards. For some reason, if you don't have that access point and you get to my YouTube channel after it has started, you have to wait until 12 hours later before it actually appears. So it's really useful for you and for me to be subscribed. But if you visit my YouTube channel, automatically there's a video which starts playing, and I've heard it about 1,000 times because I'm always looking at my YouTube channel to update things and see what's going on. And this is the piece. It's the Chopin Waltz Opus 18, a waltz that Chopin wrote to be listened to, not to be danced to, and to be enjoyed in the glittering Parisian salons where he entertained the well-to-do and made beautiful music, beautiful atmospheres, and really, I think, probably uplifted just as much as I'm hoping to do right now those who heard him play. So this is the Chopin Waltz in E-flat, Opus 18. Opus 18, a grand way to start this evening's program, a live stream for those of you who are just joining us. This is not a pre-recorded session of highlights as I had previously advertised. This is the real thing. We are on Saturday evening at just after 6 p.m. and this is absolutely live, as you can hear. And that's a great start, surely a great piece of music, and to bring us into these selection of music, which is largely highlights and various anecdotes and stories, which I'd like to share for you in this evening session. Now, I'd like to go on to three pieces of music by Handel, by J.S. Bach, and by the French composer Jean-Philippe Rameau. Now, I've played the Handel harmonious blacksmith variations a number of times, and it's such a fascinating story, and everyone has always been very intrigued about it. This fact that Handel, when he was in his London years, early 18th century, 1700 and something, and he was enjoying a walk and a stroll around central London, and suddenly a rainstorm erupted, and he dashed down an alley to try and escape the rain and ended up in a blacksmith's studio. And here he discovered this blacksmith who was working away, striking his anvil and whistling a very merry tune. And Handel was so taken by this melody and by the experience of this chance encounter that he in fact went home and then wrote this piece of music down and wrote variations about it, the air being the melody, a song air, and variations being the subsequent repetition of the melody, ornamented and with details around it. And then he included it as the last movement of his Suite number 5 in E major. Several movements, and this is the final, very brilliant ending to it. Of course, I subsequently discovered in the research, many details I've discovered in presenting these pieces, that in fact that is all absolute nonsense. There was no blacksmith and there was no thunderstorm. In fact, it was discovered that a publisher in the middle of the 19th century decided that he could extricate this piece of music, which actually is a very brilliant and exciting melody and piece, and then publish it on its own with this fanciful story, The Harmonious Blacksmith, and it would sell lots of copies, which of course it did. And this legend and this story was created around the melody and around the music. So it's a great atmosphere. It's not true, but it does add a very useful title to the piece. No one's going to remember the finale from the Suite number 5 in E, but everyone would remember the Harmonious Blacksmith. And so I'd like to play that piece of music to start, second of which I would like to play a composition by J.S. Bach, and this is the arrangement by Myra Hess. Now, coming up in the series of streams, as I said, this is number, I think, 77 or 78 in terms of our live streams. I've recently been supported by Illa Thompson in Durban, who's Publicity Matters, who's written a wonderful article which has done a national press release about this project. And in this discussion, Illa mentioned the concerts by Myra Hess, a British pianist. During the Second World War, she gave over 2,000 free concerts in the National Gallery. And these were attended by many people from London as well as troops, and it was a legendary series that really supported the community. And every lunch hour there would be these concerts and this music that she would produce and invite guests and play. And the fact that she was playing the music of the great German masters like Brahms and Beethoven and Bach was probably lost on everyone. I don't think it really made any difference while the Germans were bombing around them. But certainly this piece of music, which I'm sure she would have played many times in those concerts, Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring. And here, earlier in her career, she had entered a rehearsal with choir and orchestra of this piece by Bach and was so taken by this music. And again, it's a chance encounter. I always find myself when hear a rehearsal or hear a piece of music, people playing or rehearsing, or even walk into a concert purely by chance, and you suddenly overcome by just hearing the music so unexpectedly and fresh. It really takes your breath away. And she was so moved by it that she then wrote a piano version, which is what I'm going to play for you now. And then the third piece, the Gavotte et six doublets, or Gavotte in 6 variations by Jean-Philippe Rameau, French 18th century harpsichord composer. Interesting piece of music that I've played once or twice, and one of the really interesting and fascinating experiences for me about this live stream project has been the interaction that I'm able to have with you as the audience. And a number of people have responded always about, we've heard this piece and we went and researched it and we found other recordings. And this is a particular one that I've been discussing with my friend Jane, who was in Franschhoek, now in Fishhoek. And Jane was telling me how she was really taken by this and went to research more performances and then found different performances and completely different tempos and how she experienced this. And it's really fascinating for me to hear and to interact with the audience, you the audience, how your experience of the music is. So if you have any questions or you'd like to comment about anything about how you see or experience these live streams, please do feel free to send me an email and comment at any time. So there's 3 pieces of music for you now. Handel, the Harmonious Blacksmith, Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring, and then the Gavotte and 6 variations by Jean-Philippe Rameau. It looks like we have 2 guests already. Here comes Miss Waggy Tail. Hello, Winnie Bob. And Frida Bob. Three compositions there from the 18th century, early 18th century, by George Frederick Handel, first of all, the harmonious blacksmith. No harmonious blacksmiths in sight, apparently, but nevertheless, a very fanciful title and story. Second piece, Bach's Jesu Joy of Man's Desiring, as arranged by Myra Hess. And the third piece, the Gavotte in 6 double by Jean-Philippe Rameau. Wonderful music, very linked there, especially the Handel and the Rameau. Now, I'd like to move on to a piece of music that I have played again a few times in these live streams, but it's a really beautiful piece and it has something rather extraordinary about it. And that's the first of 3 piano pieces, or Klavierstücke, as composed by Franz Schubert. And we know Schubert's music, the impromptus, are such beautiful music and they are so well known, but this is somewhat less often played. And these are pieces of music that Schubert was probably intending to complete as either a 4th set of impromptu or 3rd set of impromptus, at least 4 impromptus, and in his last months of his life, or possibly a sonata. And they really bring about a unique aspect from a historical point of view. When you look at a young composer like this who dies in his 30s, 30 or so, and I think he knew. It seems to me that, in fact, a lot of Schubert's the music composed in the last months of his life, he knew that things were not going terribly well. And there's something in the urgency, it's a combination of the urgency in the music and the intensity and the quite direct feelings, contrasted with a very resigned and somewhat withdrawn character, which comes across in this piece, I think, quite particularly well. It's really beautiful music. There's unique chords, there's such unique colorings. Schubert's always exploring new ideas, and there's always new ranges for him to be writing this very rhythmically driven music and then contrasting that with this very broad melody in the lower part of the piano. It's very richly scored. The second piece of music, after that I'll play one of my favorites that I keep coming back to again and again. It's always so fascinating. I've played this piece for probably about 30 years, if not longer. And I was very inspired by a recording I heard when I was still a teenager, probably one of the first piano recordings, classical piano recordings that I ever heard and that I ever owned. And that was by the pianist Ivo Pogorelic, who is still a pianist that I find incredibly fascinating. And it's controversial, but fascinating. And I was very drawn by this interpretation, and it's so difficult that even years later one has to try and get that out of your ears and try and find your own path and try and find your own way into the music and not try to borrow or imitate or absorb someone else's, what you hear as someone else's version or interpretation. It's a fascinating piece, a nocturne, a piece of night music, a beautiful melody that unwinds, but what's really fascinating is the left hand. The left hand is not just a mere accompanying figure, it is really so fully rounded out and laden with so many interesting details. It's a very unique and a very beautiful piece of music. So this is the first of the 3 Klavierstücke by Schubert and the Nocturne Opus 55, number 2 by Chopin. That was the Nocturne in E flat, opus 55, number 2. Piece of music that I've played. It's a very unique piece. I've played with it, struggled with it, always trying to find a new way into it. It's such a unique piece of music in Chopin's output that these layers and contrasted interests between various hands, left and right hand, is almost equal. It's almost like you want to sing just as much with the left hand as you do with the right. And before that, I played the first of one of the very last compositions by Franz Schubert from 3 piano pieces, or drei Klavierstücke, the first of those 3. I'm going to end this evening's program with a selection of 3 pieces, first of which is by Claude Debussy, the Arabesque. Beautiful piece. I've already played this and so often in these streams, and it's just such a perfect piece of music. I really found that some pieces of music work very well across this live stream medium. I found that Beethoven hasn't always been very successful. When the music is presented in such an intimate situation and across the internet and across your devices, it lacks, for me, it seems to lack something of the space, the grandeur, the physical space. It seems to me like Beethoven needs a big hall. It needs a big sound. It needs space for that resonance to really build. And somehow that doesn't come across very well in the live stream performances, I think. Certainly what I've been listening to of my own playing. But this Debussy, I think, does. There's something about the beautiful flowing color of the sound, the flowing nature, the way the pedal blends the sounds together. And there's such an intimate and just purely beautiful atmosphere that comes through in this music. And the second composition, a piece that I haven't played for you before, also by a French composer from the early 20th century, Maurice Ravel, probably my favorite composer. And always to work on Ravel's music is just a pleasure. It just somehow seems hardly like work. It just seems like an incredible amount of fun, an incredible amount of joy to create different sounds. And I'm going to play the first piece from a set of pieces called Miroir. And this is Nocturne, or Night Creatures. And I think there's an atmosphere of somewhat mysterious creatures that dart. You can see I'm sweating now suddenly. That dart and are elusive. But particularly, I think the idea of night moths is fitting to this. These moths that flutter and get drawn to light, rising up into the sky towards the light, and then their wings flutter in the dust. There's something about that magical lightness and brilliance in this piece. Nocturne by Ravel. And the last piece of the 3 by Franz Liszt, La Leggerezza. You can see my writing is getting a bit skew. I promise I hadn't had a glass of wine. You can see it on the screen now. La Leggerezza, an Etchu translating as the lightness. Piece of music that's actually by Liszt, but sounds very Chopinesque in its style. It's written in the key of F minor, which was one of Chopin's favorite keys. I think Liszt was trying to emulate and trying to reproduce or copy, even with respect, Chopin's pianistic style and something of the flowing and the very delicate nature of the music. So this is music by Debussy, Ravel, and Liszt. That was Liszt's concert etude La Leggerezza, the lightness. Before that, Ravel's Nocturne from Miroir, and to start off that set of three, the Arabesque #1 by Claude Debussy. I see. Is there a computer fan that's come on? What is the... Even the humidifier has turned itself on. It's incredibly hot. So those last two pieces, apologies, did not go terribly well. The Ravel was a bit of a miss. I don't know. I got lost somewhere there in the second half, and the list was a bit of a mess. So I'll hopefully have the opportunity to try that again. We've got another 700 live streams to go, I guess, an unlimited number. So that brings us to the end of this evening's program. I hope you've enjoyed the selection of music. It's suddenly got very, very warm. I'm here in a very thick velvet jacket. It seems like even the humidifier and the computers are starting to turn their own fans on. I need my own fan to keep me cool. Wendy Pop and Frida are sitting here enjoying the music and enjoying the evening's warmth as we go on. And I hope you have enjoyed this evening's live stream with us. It has been a live stream, not a pre-recorded session. As I said in the beginning of the program, I was expecting to do a pre-recorded session of highlights as I wasn't going to be here, but I am here, and I've just finished the live session. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Selection of music. We hope you have a Merry Christmas and a peaceful holiday. And we look forward to seeing you next week as Thursday the 31st of December, a New Year's Eve concert I'll be playing at 6 o'clock. So instead of Wednesday, I'll be on Thursday next week. And a very exciting, very up-tempo, very lively, and some really wonderful music there. I'll be playing at 6 p.m. But of course, you could watch it, especially if you have subscribed to YouTube. You'll have the direct link to watch it at any time. So please do visit my YouTube page. Go to YouTube and just search for my name. Subscribe to my channel at YouTube, and you'll be informed and have direct links to all the streams that I do every time I do a new one. If you are able to support us, you'll see a QR code on the screen. Please feel free, or if you're able, be really grateful for every donation or ticket bought. If every viewer was able to buy a ticket, we would really help us along immensely in terms of earning a living, as well as being able to fund and produce these rather costly and technically quite extremely advanced live stream sessions. In the article that I mentioned earlier that was written about the project, I'm not sure how to actually verify this, but I might be the only person in the world that is doing these live streams on such a regular basis, and also I think we're doing a really good technical quality of them. We have access to a new computer, so there are no sound fails. We have beautiful surrounds and candles, and trying to keep it absolutely interesting for you to watch. Thank you to Barry for the technical support and the camera switching this evening. And thanks for Frida and Wendy Pop, who are just sitting here being very quiet and keeping me company. Even Wendy Pop's wagging her tail. Yes, I can see Wendy Pop, the Wendy Pop tail wagger. We were joking the other day we could rent her out to Eskom for a turbine tail wagging fee. She'll be able to drive a turbine just with her tail. It's always wagging. Wendy Pop, you're wagging your tail. Are you wagging your tail? Are you wagging? You Wendy Pop, Wendy Pop, Wendy Pop, Wendy Pop. Little Wendy Pop, that's sweet. Look forward to seeing you next week, Thursday. Thank you for joining us. Hope you've enjoyed the music. Please support us if you can. We're very, very grateful if you're able to.